I'm Stephen Walt, professor at the Harvard Kennedy School. I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk to you about international politics and foreign policy. I'm going to explain the realist tradition in thinking about these subjects and examine what it tells us about world politics today. So let me start by explaining the realist tradition. Realism has a long and rich history. It has variations in Europe, in Asia, in South Asia. Number of different scholars and writers over many centuries has used realist ideas. It's a rather straightforward set of ideas that tells you a lot about how states behave. It's not the only way to think about world affairs, but it's not surprising it's been around a long time. Now, as the name implies, realists think you should study the world as it really is, not as you might like it to be. Realism doesn't say how states ought to behave to create a better world or to behave morally. It just tries to explain how states really do behave in the real world. For realists, power is the center of politics. Again, that doesn't mean that emotions, norms, individual personalities don't matter at all, just that power is the most important thing to understanding what's going on in the political world. It lies in focusing on who has power and what they're trying to do with it. As Thucydides wrote in his famous Peloponnesian War, the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. And for realists, power is defined primarily in material terms. Economic and military strength. Soft power can matter in the world, but soft power is always a function of having a lot of hard power, a large economy, a sophisticated economy, and a powerful military. Realism also tends to be rather pessimistic about the human condition. It assumes that human beings are often driven by passions, they sometimes make catastrophic mistakes, and that there's no way to ever completely eliminate conflicts of interest among people. So conflict, in a sense, is always with us. It's hardwired into the nature of international politics. For this reason, realism tends to see history largely in terms of continuities, recurring behavior, things that keep happening over and over. Wars, the rise and fall of city-states, empires, nations. Realists recognize, of course, that there are differences between different states and even different periods of time. That there's a difference, say, between Nazi Germany and democratic England in the 1930s, or that revolutionary Iran today is different than Iran under the Shah. But for realists, the similarities in state behavior, the fact that all states, and especially all major powers, tend to act more or less the same way, is a function of the fact that they're living in a competitive international system. The international system for realists is thought of as being one of anarchy. There is no central authority to keep order, to protect states from each other, and to enforce agreements. And that means if you're a country and you get into trouble, there's no emergency number to call. And finally, realists recognize that no state can know another country's intentions with 100% confidence. Even if you think you know what another country might do this week, or next week, or even next year, you can't be sure what it might try to do with its power 5 years from now or 10 years from now.